Hello world, this is Lisa Fredrickson, your friend and professor from Johnson County Community College. And in Chapter 4, I've written one more GPA function to further expand your skills and get you set up and ready for Chapter 5, where we'll actually use JavaScript to create and delete HTML elements. But Chapter 4 is all about debugging and error handling, and as you know, I am a strong believer in the debugging part of that chapter. The error handling, I believe, should be added at the very end of your application when all of your testing is completed, because when you add the error handling content in the beginning, before you thoroughly debugged and tested your code, it actually gets in the way of allowing you to easily see your errors. So I like Chapter 4 very much. It's just that I would have taken the try, catch, and throw JavaScript statements, the error handling piece that's taught at the end of the chapter. I probably would have put that in its own chapter at the very end of the book. But be that as it may, here's your new challenge to expand your GPA calculator. We're going to write a function GPA 15 using an event listener to calculate the total points. But this time, instead of hard coding the array in the function, we're going to use input boxes for our credits and our grade and grab those values from these input boxes. So if we take a 3-credit class and get an A, and we take another 3-credit class and get a B, and we take a third 3-credit class and get a C, and we calculate our GPA, that grade point would be 3.0 based on those values. Of course, if I improve my grade and recalculate, I'm going to have a little bit higher grade point average. And as you know, by clicking on the question, the solution is revealed. The HTML in blue to create the button. This HTML creates this paragraph, and then the label and input boxes to create the credits and grade input boxes that are used in the JavaScript. The JavaScript looks like this. The big difference in this case from the last GPA calculator you did in Chapter 3 is that instead of declaring our variables, credits and grades, as an array in our code, we're pulling those values out of these input boxes. So when we go down here to our for loop, our credits I is document.getElementById credits box 15 plus I, and I've cleverly identified our input boxes as credit box 15.0, 15.1, and 15.2 to relate to these 3 boxes, so that credits I becomes the value of the input box as I'm looping through this loop from 0 to less than j times. I have to surround that number value with the number JavaScript function, because by default all this content on the page from JavaScript's perspective is textual, and it does not matter if I type my input box as number or not. JavaScript still reads that as text on the page, so we have to convert it to a number if we want to use it as a number. Now the grades is text. The grades box, grade box 15, again I've ID'd these as box 15.0, 15.1, and 15.2 so that I can grab that different grade, letter grade, every time I loop through this code. The other difference between the last function that we did in Chapter 3 is how we end our loop, and I'm ending it when I is not less than j. And what is j? J is document.getElementsByClassName. We've not used that method before, Q15. All I've done is gone ahead and put a class equals Q15 for all of my different grade boxes. So this statement goes and looks at all of the elements that have that Q15 class name and asks, what is the length of that array? And in that statement, I'm setting j equal to 3 because I've got 3 elements with the class name of Q15. And then the rest of the function is very similar to what you saw at the end of Chapter 3. I've changed my length value to j here, and of course changed my event listener to button 15 and GPA 15. I sure have had fun doing these GPA calculators. When we get to Chapter 5, we're actually going to create these input boxes so that we can calculate our GPA as few or as many classes as we have. Instead of fixing that code, that HTML on the page, we're going to make JavaScript write it for us. That's going to be very exciting. Now, if you have any questions on any of this, I highly recommend you just go right back up to the top. Chapter 1, that code is very, very short. Go to number 2 and keep working your way through these examples so that you can understand every single statement. Thank you.